Ricky xin kính chào quý cô chú anh chị. Ricky chia sẻ 60 từ Watmin thường gặp trong phỏng vấn quốc tịch Mỹ dành cho đơn N400 mới. Nếu quý cô chú anh chị mới bắt đầu học Watmin, nên học 35 từ Watmin này trước trên kênh Ricky sắc màu USA. Sau khi đã nhớ được 35 từ này rồi, thì tiếp tục học những từ còn lại trong 60 từ này. Đây là 60 từ thông dụng mà người phỏng vấn thường hỏi thí sinh. Trong phỏng vấn, việc hỏi Watmin như thế nào là tùy ý người phỏng vấn, nhưng nếu quý cô chú anh chị nhớ được 60 từ này, ít nhiều có thể đem lại sự tự tin cho quý cô chú anh chị. Trong video này, ở nửa đầu video, quý cô chú anh chị sẽ luyện nghe 60 từ Watmin. Nửa đoạn sau sẽ là phần self-test, chỉ có câu hỏi mà không có câu trả lời để quý cô chú anh chị tự trả lời và kiểm tra lại những gì đã học. Ricky hy vọng phiên bản này sẽ giúp quý cô chú anh chị học Watmin hiệu quả và dễ nhớ. Ricky cảm ơn quý cô chú anh chị đã xem video nha.
Do you understand what owe taxes is? Do you understand what owe taxes is? To owe the government money. To owe the government money. What does gamble mean? What does gamble mean? To play a game for money. To play a game for money. What is work of national importance? What is work of national importance? Tasks that are important to a nation. Tasks that are important to a nation. Can you explain what crime is? Can you explain what crime is? An action that breaks the law. An action that breaks the law. Can you explain what vote means? Can you explain what vote means? To elect new leaders. To elect new leaders. Do you know what smuggle means? Do you know what smuggle means? To take things to a country illegally. To take things to a country illegally. What does claim mean? What does claim mean? To say something is true. To say something is true. What does misleading mean? What does misleading mean? Giving the wrong idea. Giving the wrong idea. Do you know what Constitution is? Do you know what Constitution is? It is the supreme law of the land. It is the supreme law of the land. What does Communist Party mean? What does Communist Party mean? Like China, North Korea. Like China, North Korea. What does bear arms mean? What does bear arms mean? To own or use a gun. To own or use a gun. What is military unit? What is military unit? A group works for government. A group works for government. What does charged mean? What does charged mean? Police tell you that you did something illegal. Police tell you that you did something illegal. Can you define public benefit? Can you define public benefit? Welfare, like food stamps. Welfare, like food stamps. What does overdue mean? What does overdue mean? Past the deadline. Past the deadline. Do you understand what deport means? Do you understand what deport means? To force a person to leave a country. To force a person to leave a country. Do you know what civilian direction is? Do you know what civilian direction is? A direction from a person who is not in the military. A direction from a person who is not in the military. What does register mean? What does register mean? To sign up. To sign up. Do you know what arrested is? Do you know what arrested is? Handcuffed by the police. Handcuffed by the police. Do you know what parole is? Do you know what parole is? The early release of a prisoner. The early release of a prisoner. What is drug paraphernalia? What is drug paraphernalia? Equipment to make illegal drugs. Equipment to make illegal drugs. What does it mean to claim to be a U.S. citizen? What does it mean to claim to be a U.S. citizen? To state you are a U.S. citizen. To state you are a U.S. citizen. Do you understand what pay alimony is? Do you understand what pay alimony is? To pay money to ex-spouse after a divorce. To pay money to ex-spouse after a divorce. Can you explain what admission into the United States is? Can you explain what admission into the United States is? The right to enter the United States. The right to enter the United States. Can you define non-resident alien? Can you define non-resident alien? A person who has not passed the green card test. A person who has not passed the green card test. What does detention facility mean? What does detention facility mean? A place where people are forced to stay. A place where people are forced to stay. Do you know what military type training is? Do you know what military type training is? Learning to fight in combat. Learning to fight in combat. Can you explain what O means? Can you explain what O means? To have a debt. To have a debt. Do you understand what overthrow is? Do you understand what overthrow is? To remove a government from power. To remove a government from power. Can you explain what prostitute means? Can you explain what prostitute means? Someone who has sex for money. Someone who has sex for money. Do you know what prison is? Do you know what prison is? A place where prisoners are kept. A place where prisoners are kept. Can you explain what hereditary title is? Can you explain what hereditary title is? A royal title, like prince or princess. A royal title, like prince or princess. Do you know how to explain oath of allegiance? Do you know how to explain oath of allegiance? A promise to be loyal to the United States. A promise to be loyal to the United States. Can you explain what genocide is? Can you explain what genocide is? To kill a whole race. To kill a whole race. What does confined mean? What does confined mean? To be kept in a place. To be kept in a place. What does illegal drugs or narcotics mean? What does illegal drugs or narcotics mean? Like heroin or cocaine. Like heroin or cocaine. Do you know what totalitarian party is? Do you know what totalitarian party is? Government controls everything and people have no power. Government controls everything and people have no power. Can you explain what dependent is? Can you explain what dependent is? Someone who relies on another person. Someone who relies on another person. Can you explain what fraudulent is? Can you explain what fraudulent is? To claim something that is not true. To claim something that is not true. Do you know what form of government of the United States is? Do you know what form of government of the United States is? Republic. Republic. What is weapons training? What is weapons training? To learn how to use a gun. To learn how to use a gun. Do you know what draft it is? Do you know what draft it is? Being selected as a soldier. Being selected as a soldier. What does jail mean? What does jail mean? A place where prisoners are kept. A place where prisoners are kept. What does lie mean? What does lie mean? To say something that is not true. To say something that is not true. What does offense mean? What does offense mean? A minor crime. A minor crime. Do you understand what procure is? Do you understand what procure is? To find someone for sex. To find someone for sex. What does false mean? What does false mean? Not true. Not true. Can you explain what immigration benefit is? Can you explain what immigration benefit is? Things like a visa, green card, or citizenship. Things like a visa, green card, or citizenship. Can you explain what non-combatant services are? Can you explain what non-combatant services are? Services that do not involve combat. Services that do not involve combat. What does torture mean? What does torture mean? To hurt someone physically. To hurt someone physically. What does probation mean? What does probation mean? You report to an officer regularly instead of jail time. You report to an officer regularly instead of jail time. Can you define order of nobility? Can you define order of nobility? Like king or queen. Like king or queen. Can you explain what civilian is? Can you explain what civilian is? A person who is not in the military. A person who is not in the military. What does detained mean? What does detained mean? Held in custody by police. Held in custody by police. What does it mean to commit a crime? What does it mean to commit a crime? To do something that breaks the law. To do something that breaks the law. Do you understand what controlled substances means? Do you understand what controlled substances means? You can buy it with a prescription, but with restrictions. You can buy it with a prescription, but with restrictions. What does weapon mean? What does weapon mean? Like a knife or gun. Like a knife or gun. Can you explain what sighted is? Can you explain what sighted is? Given a ticket by police. Given a ticket by police. What does deportation proceedings mean? What does deportation proceedings mean? Process of removing a person. Process of removing a person. Can you explain what misrepresentation is? Can you explain what misrepresentation is? To lie or give wrong information. To lie or give wrong information. What does gamble mean? What does claim mean? Can you explain what vote means? Do you understand what owe taxes is? What does bear arms mean? What is military unit? What does charged mean? What is work of national importance? Do you know what military type training is? Can you explain what O means? Do you understand what overthrow is? Can you explain what prostitute means? What does misleading mean? Do you know what Constitution is? What does Communist Party mean? Can you define order of nobility? Can you explain what civilian is? What does detained mean? Can you explain what crime is? Do you know what smuggle means? What does register mean? Do you know what arrested is? Do you know what parole is? Can you explain what dependent is? Can you explain what fraudulent is? Do you know what form of government of the United States is? What is weapons training? Do you understand what deport means? Do you know what civilian direction is? What does offense mean? Do you understand what procure is? What does false mean? Can you define public benefit? What does overdue mean? What does weapon mean? Can you explain what cited is? Do you understand what pay alimony is? Can you explain what admission into the United States is? Can you explain what genocide is? What does confined mean? Can you explain what immigration benefit is? Can you explain what non-combatant services are? What is drug paraphernalia? What does it mean to claim to be a U.S. citizen? Do you know what prison is? What does it mean to commit a crime? Do you understand what controlled substances means? Can you define non-resident alien? What does detention facility mean? What does illegal drugs or narcotics mean? Do you know what totalitarian party is? What does deportation proceedings mean? Can you explain what misrepresentation is? Can you explain what hereditary title is? Do you know how to explain oath of allegiance? Do you know what drafted is? What does jail mean? What does lie mean? What does torture mean? What does probation mean?